Hello book lovers, and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today is Friday, July 28th, and I am here to start my third and final vlog for my Germany trip. Alright guys, if you haven't watched the first two, I definitely suggest that you do. I think I'm planning on just putting it into like a mini playlist. So if I do that, I will go ahead and link that up here. I am kind of in the middle of two books right now, so at the very least check out the week 2 vlogs to kind of get my synopsis of these books, because I'm not going to go through that again, as well as my initial thoughts. Initially I was going to have my week 2 vlog go through the end of today, but that vlog was getting kind of long, and I didn't really know what we were doing at the tail end of this trip, and I didn't want that last vlog to have nothing going on with it. And I know today we are heading to Bertberg. I'm probably saying that wrong, but we're heading out there once my step grandma gets back from her appointment, so in about an hour or so. And we're just gonna hang out there. They have castles, old houses, the usual German stuff going on. But I just wanted to come in, introduce this vlog. If you don't know what I'm currently reading and you don't want to check out the other vlogs, my physical book is Saint by Sierra Simone. I am on chapter 37, page 256 at this point. I am having a really great time with the story. It is definitely heating up very much so. The other book I started because I was on a train ride and didn't want to bring this book with me, and have been kind of prioritizing it. I've been kind of trying to read one chapter of Saint, one chapter of this, but this book is very addictive, and that is Soul Eater by Lily Main. I'm on chapter 15, but I wanted to have the cover page for you guys. I don't know what chapter 15 is, page 159, and it is a little under 50% through, 48% through, and I am having a wonderful time. This one is also getting steamy, and I love Wynn. I love him so much. I always love a protective man, so I'm having a really good time with the story. I'm not sure how much I'm going to talk about these books, since with both of them I am kind of over or approaching the 50% mark of them, and I obviously don't want to get spoilery, but I'll continue chugging my way through them and letting you know my thoughts. But if you want to know my thoughts up to this point, definitely go ahead and check out vlog 2, and that is all I have to say for now, and I will check in whenever I check in. Hey guys, so it is Saturday. I'm eating a pretzel with pepper on it and choking on it as well, apparently, and it is a little bit past 1 o'clock, I believe, and we just got back to the house. We were just running some errands and whatnot. As you may have seen from the b-roll, we haven't been doing too much. Yesterday the weather was pretty crappy, and I was not feeling very well, so everything was kind of crappy. So you may have seen some faraway shots from the castle, but we didn't walk the 20 minutes upstairs to get to it. But this afternoon I did finish Soul Eater, so just wanted to give you my final thoughts on that. And I do think I'm gonna give this 5 stars. I just had such a good time with it. It was so addicting. I ended up just binge reading it. I didn't end up switching back and forth between this and Saint, because I was like, I just gotta keep reading this book. It was such a fun time. I would say check some trigger warnings because there is a torture scene. I'm gonna like lean my arm on here because my arms are weak and I don't feel like holding my camera up forever. So do check trigger warnings for that. I really enjoyed both of our characters. They were both such sweethearts at the core. I really enjoyed the smut. I would say this is definitely a very smut forward book. Like once they start having sex, they're like, let's do it all the time kind of situation. World building wise, this is going to be a series and this was a debut novel, so very impressed with that. But world building wise, I definitely think you're going to learn a lot more about different monsters, about different parts of the world, how, you know, the monsters interact with each other and whatnot. So there wasn't too much world building that wasn't pertinent specifically to our two characters, but I really think that the author is going to expand on that, so I'm okay with that. We did get to meet another monster that was friends with Win in this book, and I definitely hope that one of the next books is about him. He seemed like a really great guy, and I definitely want to see him get a romance, and I will definitely be continuing with this series. I don't really have much else to say about it except that it was fun. It was a great time. It was addictive. It's definitely worth a binge read, and I'm pretty sure everyone I've seen read this has given it like 4.5 stars, and it is definitely worth that. It's a fun monster romance, post-apocalyptic romance with some really sweet characters and excellent smut. So 10 out of 10 would recommend. And then coming back over here, this video is going to be weird because I keep moving around. I'm going to go ahead and focus on Saint now. So I'm not going to start another book. I am going to go ahead and try and finish. I still have like 160-ish pages of this book left, but when I am actually reading it, I read it relatively quickly, so it depends on how much time to read I have. We're definitely slowing down here, not just because of the weather, but just because I'm just getting a little tired of being kind of like go on this trip and all that jazz. But I will continue to keep you up to date on my reading. So I am back in Aschaffenburg at my grandma's place. It is Sunday the 30th, I believe, and it's a little after 7, so at night, not in the morning. And I just finished part 3 of Saint, and I'm moving on to part 4, the final part, which is going to take place in Ireland of this book. And I just wanted to pop in real quick because I was looking at some reviews of this book, and a lot of people were saying like that they cried at this book, and initially I was kind of like but I feel like I'm getting to the point where the emotions are definitely ramping up. The pain that Elijah is feeling, and we're reading from Aiden's point of view, so Aiden knows that Elijah is feeling a lot of pain about the fact that they only have this trip together and then everything's kind of supposed to end, and Aiden's supposed to just kind of live a life of solitude as a monk, and Elijah's just supposed to kind of move on with his life. It's definitely getting to me a little bit. Definitely feel like I'm tearing up a little bit. So Sierra Simone is doing a really great job. It's just letting us know how visceral the emotions these two men have for each other. And Aiden is like getting a little bit on my nerve. I wouldn't say I'm annoyed with him, but at the same time, it's just like he's talking about how much happier he is and how close he feels to God and how little guilt he feels about what he's doing and how he feels like that he can be a man of religion, be a man devoted to God, while also being a man devoted to Elijah. Yet at the same time, he's keeps saying he has to give Elijah up. And I'm like, I feel like deep down he knows that he can have both. He just hasn't fully come to terms with that. And they did run into another priest whom I'm assuming made an appearance in the other 2 books, because he was actually a priest, Aiden's brother's church, I guess. So he seems to be kind of the angel of the series, who kind of comes in and, you know, says what needs to be said. And he kind of came in and was talking about how the way to practice religion had used to be a tapestry, a very unique tapestry where people practiced in so many different ways, whatever worked for them, and no one was seen as being more devoted than someone who practiced within their own home and didn't go off and live in the mountains or something like that. And that nowadays there are like strict rules, and if you don't practice that specific way, then you're doing it wrong, and that you can't be considered fully a man or woman of God. And I think that may have finally nudged Aiden into the direction of being like, oh, maybe I can have both. But he's still being very stubborn about it. They're at their final location. He has still not talked to Elijah about his depression, but he's definitely getting to the point where he's like, Elijah deserves to know why I left, and it was because of my suicidal feelings at the time. So I have a feeling that's going to be a very emotional conversation. And yeah, I'm hoping that in this last 100 pages or so, Aiden comes to his senses. He starts to realize that just because the church says there's only one way to be devoted to God, that's not the way it is. I mean, I feel like it should be common sense that you can practice however is comfortable for you, whatever makes you feel closest to God, not what some large organization says is the right way. But yeah, having a good time with this, and I will probably check in with you once I finish it. So it is officially August 1st, and this is the second to last day of our trip. We are flying out tomorrow, so we're not really doing too much today other than packing. So this last vlog here isn't so much a travel vlog, it's just like a normal vlog, but taking place in Germany. It is what it is. This was a long trip. We did a lot of great things, but I do think we were a little burned out at the end, and also the weather wasn't very cooperative. So, oh well. 2 things are starting today, 2 readathons that I'm taking part in, which is Orilium, the magical readathon hosted by Book Roast, as well as the second round of the Heartstopper readathon hosted by Just Martine. But before I go into that, I did finish Saint yesterday, but we didn't get back to our hotel till like after 10, so I was too tired to update you, but I did go ahead and finish the last 100 or so pages of this yesterday and decided to give it a 4.5 stars. I don't think I have too much to add to what I've already said about this book in this vlog and the last vlog. I did really enjoy the characters. I really enjoyed their relationship and the conversations they had. It was a very emotional and deep relationship. I really enjoyed the conversations that they had about each other, their partnership, their past, their future, and how religion can play into that, or Aiden's need to have a lot of structure and prayer within his life to feel secure in his treatment of his depression. So really enjoyed the conversations, absolutely loved the writing. I think Sierra Simone has a really great flow to her writing. It's almost poetic at times, so it was exactly the type of writing that I really enjoyed. The reason I didn't give it a full I did give it a 4.5. The reason I didn't give it a full 5 stars is just sometimes there was a little bit too much religion talk where I was just like, okay, we could have stopped this like a couple paragraphs ago, or sometimes Aiden's reluctance to find a balance in his life that worked for him was a little bit on the annoying side, but he got there in the end. So I'm still giving it 4.5 stars. We'll definitely be checking out Sinner, which technically takes place before this. So I'm a little bit nervous because those characters were obviously like in this book, and it's not spoilery or anything because like, you know, they're gonna end up together. So the fact that they're together in this book isn't like, oh man, now I can't read that book because I know that they end up together. But they have like 5 kids. So they're like baby making machines. And I'm like, is there gonna be like pregnancy? Is there gonna be like a ton of baby talk in this book? So I am a little bit nervous about it, but I did get little sneak peeks at Sean, who seems to be the love interest in that book, and I did get a good vibe from him. So I'm interested in getting his, and is his wife Poppy? There was a girl named Poppy. I can't remember if it's from Sinner or Priest. One of them is Poppy, but I am interested in their story. So I'll definitely be checking that out. Still am not interested in Priest, but in the author's note, I did glimpse that she is planning at least one more book following a priest that made a appearance in here who was very intriguing, and also possibly for the younger brother, Ryan. So had a good time with this. We'll definitely be checking out more of the author's work. And that was my final book of July. And now we are moving into, what is it, August, and I'm turning on my Kindle. So like I said, 2 readathons are taking part, I'm taking part in at this time and are starting today. So the Heartstopper Readathon is kind of like you can read whatever you want and you submit it, and there's different challenges throughout the month and you get points based off whatever you read. I'm just gonna read whatever I want and hopefully do okay for my team. I am on red team, by the way. And this readathon is obviously based off Heartstopper, but specifically their sports event week, or is it a day, where kind of like schools get together and you have to perform a bunch of sports and everything, and it sucks for people like me who don't like sports or are introverts. But anyway, that's what the readathon is based off of. So I will be starting with The Foxhole Accord by Nora Sekovic. This is a reread for me. I have read this entire trilogy like a couple years ago, and maybe even more than that. One of the reasons I'm choosing to start with this book focuses heavily on sports, which doesn't really matter for this readathon, but I feel like it's the vibe. And the second is because for Magical Orilium, one of my prompts that I need to complete is pet pick, and for my personal TBR, I had a pet pick option and Loki chose this book, so that is why I'm selecting it. And let me actually look at my computer to see like what class that's for, because right now we're in the autumn equinox, and I am doing 2 professions or career choices, both Beastmaster and Necromancer. I already have it listed out, all the prompts that I need to fulfill, which of them is just for Beastmaster, which of them is just for Necromancer, and which follows or covers both. And in this case, Pet Pick is the first level for animal studies, and that is a class required for both of my careers. So I will be killing 2 birds with 1 stone, so that is good to go. I will not be vlogging my experience with Orilium this month or Heartstopper, just because I've been vlogging so much on this trip that I know when I get back and I'm gonna be all burnt out and jet lagged, that the vlogs wouldn't be very high quality. So we're gonna take a break, but I am taking part in it. But back to the Foxhole Court. It's always really hard to explain this book. I feel like it requires like a 3-minute presentation, but pretty much we are following Neil, and Neil is the son of a psychopath, and the psychopath works for a gang, and he kind of tortures people and kills people for a living. And Neil's mother ends up running away with him because she's like, we're not taking part in this life no more, and obviously his father is pursuing him. At the beginning of this book, his mother ends up passing away due to a bad encounter with one of his father's men, and so now he's kind of on his own. He's a high school senior, so he just kind of goes to the closest high school that he was at when his mother died, and joins their XC team. XC is not a real sport, it's a made-up sport for this book, but it's kind of, I would say, like hockey meets lacrosse maybe, and he's really passionate about this. He used to play this sport for the gang. I guess the gang is very involved with the sport. In fact, they have a college that they support, a college team that they support called the Ravens. And one day the Ravens competition comes to scout Neil at his high school, and they ask him to join, and Neil's very nervous about this because one of the boys on the team is someone who used to be part of the gang as well, and so he's like, oh crap, he's gonna recognize me. But luckily for him, this guy's kind of an idiot and doesn't recognize him. But at the same time, Neil's like, hey, I'm sorry, I can't join your college team because my father would know about me then and would kill me. And he doesn't say that, he's just like, no, sorry, I can't do it. But the team's like, too bad you don't have a choice kind of situation. At least some of the players are like, you don't have a choice. So he's like, okay, fine. And so he joins this team and pretty much expects to be dead by the end of the year, which makes this entire story very chaotic because we have a character who's just kind of like his final hurrah kind of situation. He's gonna try and do everything he can for this team and its members to make their life better, to help them succeed at the sport. And he's just totally willing to put himself into dangerous situations because he's like, I'm gonna be dead soon anyway. So this is a very chaotic self-published book. It has a huge fan base, lots of fan fiction and fan art associated with it. So if you like books that have all that going on, definitely check this out. It is very queer. I would not consider this a romance. Neil does have a, you can almost call it a relationship with one of the characters in this book, but it is definitely probably not the kind of relationship where you want to like base your own relationships off of it, but it is a good time and I'm very excited to jump into this. I have no idea how many pages this book is because it's one of those books on Kindle where it like doesn't show you what page you're on, only what percentage you're on, so that's annoying. But last time I read these relatively quickly and hopefully that is the case as well here. So I am back home. It is the following day. We got back yesterday, but I was too exhausted to check in with you guys. And honestly, even before we left, I meant to check in with you guys one more time before I left Germany, but you know, between packing and saying goodbye to family and stuff like that, I was just a little bit exhausted and everything like that. Traveling yesterday was not good. It was not good. The flight was delayed by like 2 hours, and they were just, their communication skills were lacking, to put it kindly. They were barely at all telling us what we needed to do, and everyone was just kind of like, what are we doing? So that was not the greatest. And then when we got back, they asked if we brought anything. So I was just like, yeah, you know, we brought some chocolates and we had brought some meat. We brought some schinken, which is like ham, but I think it's like smoked and very thinly cut. And so then we had to go get our bags checked, and then they took the 2 packets of schinken that we brought, and they're like, you can't bring this into the country. And I was all like, what? What are you talking about? But I guess you can't bring meat from other countries. I'm like, not you trying to say that America has better quality meat than Germany, okay? We all know that's not the case. But the guy was like, this is a warning, and next time it's a $500 fine for 2 packets of meat that cost less than $10. I was like, what kind of power trip are you guys on? But we lost that, unfortunately, but we didn't lose any of our chocolate, and we did bring Maltaschen, which are like kind of like stuffed raviolis that you serve in like a broth. So they didn't take that. So I don't know, even though they're filled with meat, don't ask me how they decide what they do and do not take. But anyway, yeah, we finally got home. I think it was probably a little after 4 or so when we landed. So we probably got home, you know, a little bit before 6 or so, because traffic was terrible. Obviously, by the time we were leaving the airport, all that work traffic was just starting. So it was a very, very long day, which was a very long explanation for why I didn't check in with you. But when I was on the airplane, let me grab my Kindle, I did finish The Foxhole Court, and I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. I don't remember if I stated this, but this is a reread. I did read this series a few years ago. I have to admit, while I was reading it, I was like, oh, I totally forgot about that, and oh my god, I forgot about that, which is one of the reasons that I usually wait at least a year, if not like 2 or more years, before I reread books, because I enjoy being reminded of things that happened and like not already remembering them going into the book. I don't know. If I go into a book already remembering everything that happens, I find myself looking forward to specific scenes, and then I get bored with the scenes that I'm currently in. I don't know, that's just a problem that I have. But I gave it 4.5 stars. This book is so chaotic. The characters are unhinged. Definitely check trigger warnings before going into this book, because it does have a lot of darker themes. I put this under new adult because our character, I think he's 18. He's just starting out in college, so there's mostly college aged people in here. And while there's no like explicit sex, I think maybe in the later scenes there's some like stuff, but not like ever explicit sex or anything. But there's definitely darker themes and some torture and some death kind of stuff going on. So just a heads up for that. But overall, I just think this series is so fun. It's so addictive. It's so binge worthy. Once you pick it up, you just kind of don't want to put it down, because you're like, where the heck is this author gonna go with this? And if you've already read it, you know where she's gonna go with it, and you're just excited to get there. So I had a great time with this book. I think it's just one of those chaotic books where it's better not to know too much about what's going on and to go into it relatively blind, as long as you're okay with the trigger warnings and everything. So I definitely want to check out the next book. I wasn't planning on reading it this month since it's not on my TBR, but it may happen, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a little while. Then I did start and finish another book while on the plane. The flight was probably a little over 10 hours or so, and this book was only 230 pages long, so I did finish the entirety of it on the flight. I didn't sleep at all just because of the way that the flight was timed. My body didn't get tired at any point. But that book is Evolved by N.R. Walker. So that is the cover. And this is a KU book that I recently saw someone on Instagram read, and I was looking for more like sci-fi romances, and that's what this is. This is a male romance. We have a guy who has OCD, and he has something else, and I'm forgetting the name for it. I wrote it down, I think, on my phone, which I'm recording on, so I'll probably just like put the word right here. But I believe it's something along the lines where he is very sensitive to what we may consider like human noises, like breathing, chewing, snoring, things like that. He can't really stand it or anything, which obviously that combined with OCD, overly organized, or cleanliness, there we go, that's the word, makes it very hard for him to be in relationships. And this is set a little bit into the future. I think it's like 2060 something, so not too far, but at this point AI has evolved a lot, and so he decides, after a boyfriend is like, you should just date a robot, then to purchase the newest model of AI partners. So these are AIs that are specifically made to be kind of like a sexual partner oftentimes. There are lower level AIs or robots that kind of do like cleaning and driving, things like that. But he purchases, I believe his name is Sean. He purchases Sean to be his sexual partner, and he starts to realize that between reading the manual and the way Sean is acting, that Sean seems to be evolving beyond what is expected of his model, and that he is becoming like sentient. He's becoming like an actual person, and the two of them end up falling in love. But since he is the only one of his kind, and it seems like it may have been caused by a glitch or an error by the organization that makes these robots, they are trying to hide, because obviously that organization is trying to get Sean back. So I believe this would technically be considered a novella, and novellas are a little hard for me because I usually need just a little bit more, but I did think that this book was just about the right length. I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I thought both of the characters were very sweet. It was really great to watch. I think his name was Lloyd, which is unfortunate. That's not a name that I love, and I kept thinking of like La Lloyd from the, like, it was one of those Lego movies. But yeah, anyway, I think his name was Lloyd. It was just really great for him to finally be with someone who accepted him for the way that he was. He's someone who obviously wants things very specific and has trouble interacting with people. He doesn't really like interacting with people, so he really found a lot of comfort and acceptance in Sean. And Sean was one of those people who, obviously, he is incredibly intelligent because Lloyd is very intelligent. He's actually a professor of psychology, I believe, who has a very strong passion for historical literature. But he also, at the same time, Sean is new to the world, you know? He was just kind of created and brought to life, and kind of watching him go out and kind of learn how to go shopping and how to use the elevator and driving in a car for the first time was just a really sweet experience. This book does have quite a bit of smut in it. Sean was created to be a sexual partner for Lloyd, and Lloyd was all like we should take this slow because I want you to feel like we're in an actual relationship. Like if you were a human, I wouldn't just like bang you on the first day. And Sean was like, okay, then bang me on the second day because like I want you. And Lloyd is like, wait, I feel like he shouldn't be initiating sex right now. What's happening? And that's one of the things that makes him start to realize that Sean very much has a mind of his own and that mind is very horny. So there was a lot of really funny parts in this, a lot of really sweet moments. I think it's a really sweet, short, quick, easy, fun read. I thought that the pacing was really well done. It is a relatively short book, and the two of them obviously start having sex like on day 2. So it's a pretty fast moving relationship. So if you're into slow burn, maybe not for you, but if you are looking for some AI human relationships, obviously since Sean isn't a human, his body is slightly different and has some additions to it that a usual human male body would not have. So that was fun as well. So if you're looking for a cute sci-fi romance, definitely recommend this one. And like I said, I think I'm gonna give it a solid 4 stars. Okay, I hope I didn't move too much because I had to jump up and grab this book, but I still had about, I think only like half an hour left of the flight when I decided to pick up my last book. So I only ended up getting through about 30 pages of this. At this point, I am on page 74 because I woke up at like 3 this morning and did a little bit of reading. But that is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. I'm not going to talk too much about this book because obviously I'm not going to finish it in this vlog. I just wanted to let you know that I'm starting it. This is like a Regency fantasy romance kind of situation. We are dealing with Dora, which is, no offense, not a name that I like. Especially for like an adult, just because whenever I hear the word Dora, I think of like Dora the Explorer. Dora the Explorer, not Dora the Explorer, which is obviously like a child. So it's hard for me to disconnect those two. But she had half her soul stolen by a fae who apparently her, oh, my cat is yelling for me, being reunited with the Locanator. Baby, I'm in here. I'm right here, baby. The door's open. You just gotta push your little noggin against. Here he is! Locanator! I've been sniffing him. I know. Well, I don't know what you want because I'm not gonna feed you. Anyway, what was I saying? She had half her soul stolen by a fae who actually apparently is owed her entire soul because of a deal that her mom made, but her cousin ended up saving her. So now she can't really feel very strong emotions. So she's very much kind of like feels rather blasé about everything. She doesn't really feel embarrassment, fear, strong happiness, joy, things like that. And she's been looking this way for quite a while now. And it is time for her cousin to come out into society and find a husband. And they haven't been having much luck in the country. So her cousin suggests they go to London to do this. But it seems that her cousin's primary goal was to introduce Dora to the Lord Sorcier, who is the king's magician, in hopes that this magician can help Dora. So obviously Dora and this magician start hanging out, and so far I just love their interactions so much. It's really great banter because she's kind of just like acting like her usual self. She's like, oh, I'm just saying random things because I don't really care about anything at all. And he's all like snarky in response because he's like, how dare this weirdo talk to me this way? But he himself is definitely not a gentleman. It seems that he grew up a commoner, but his role as the king's magician has obviously raised him to society, but his manners have not risen with him. So far I'm enjoying all the characters. Dora, is his name Elijah? What is his name? Elias, as well as her cousin and Elias's friend as well. So great characters so far. Really enjoying the writing, really enjoying the banter. So having a good time with that. And it's a relatively quick read. So hopefully it doesn't take me too long to finish it. All right, before I go, as you may remember, Orilium is starting or has starting. So I read The Foxhole Court for Pet Pick, and then I believe A Half a Soul is a debut novel. I mean, I kind of looked and I didn't see her having any books that she wrote like on her own published before this, so I'm counting that as debut novel. Unfortunately, Evolved didn't work for any of these prompts because I do need to do them in order before I can move on to the other one. So I wasn't able to use that for anything, but that is okay. But as you can see here, The Raven King is going to be a book that I'm going to read for Orilium to read a court or royal book. Now you may, if you know the series, be like, there's no royalty in this book. But one, it's called The Raven King. And second, there is this group of people called the court, and if I remember correctly, they're kind of, the court is filled with like the champions of the sport, and they're kind of the ones that are the highest level of skill and are the ones that kind of go to like the Olympics and stuff like that. So there is a court. I mean, it's not like a royal court, but it is a form of court. So maybe I'm stretching this, but I do want to read this book for sure. And then you can see I filled in some of these that I know I need to read. A Curious Beginning is still in my TBR. And then A Snake Falls to Earth is actually an audiobook I meant to read earlier in July, but I just ended up not reading any audiobooks while I was on my trip. Hi, I still need to unpack. But yeah, so I just wanted to show that to you real quick. And now I think that I have told you everything that I needed to say. I know that that was a lot of babbling, and I think that in this last vlog I do a lot of talking just because we didn't really do a lot. And so I was doing a bit more reading, and so I was talking about my books more. So I would definitely say that the week 2 vlog is probably going to be the most exciting. Obviously, I haven't edited them or anything yet, but I just want to thank you guys for coming on this trip with me. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you enjoyed this vlog. I know I'm not vlogging for the remainder of August. I'm taking a little bit of a break from that, but I am probably gonna do vlogging in September again. So hopefully I get these vlogs edited and posted before then. But thank you guys as always for supporting my channel by watching my videos, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!